Good morning and welcome to my channel. My name is Hensie Tannerin Sawyer and this is my counseling service. I'm here today to talk about anger, understanding your anger. You see, I have people who come to the therapy room and they want to know how to manage their anger, and they want to know the things that cause them to feel angry as they are, and how they can manage the anger. And sometimes I do say to them, anger is an emotion, is a natural emotion that we all feel, but we need to learn how to manage it so that it doesn't get into rage. It doesn't get into a space where we feel that we are not in control and can't manage that, and it can be either detrimental to us or to someone else. So I've been studying about anger for a few months now, and I just thought, let me put my own understanding down. And I think I've also shared this with clients in the therapy room, but I thought, let me share it with you guys, a few things and a few understanding that I have about anger. We all get angry. I get angry. Everyone gets angry, but it's how we tame our anger and how we manage it so that it doesn't become dangerous, it doesn't become rage, it doesn't become out of control. Okay, so today we're going to look at understanding your anger, because when you understand your anger, you will know what things trigger your anger, how to manage those triggers, how to recognize those triggers so that you can manage that situation before it gets to a place where you are out of control and you can't manage it. And sometimes we can't manage the situation, but we can manage ourselves. Okay, so I like to define, anger first before we just move on with it. Now, I've written some notes here, which I'm going to be sharing with you from my notes. Anger is an emotion, as I've said before, and I looked at it from the dictionary, and what I find is that the dictionary says that anger, it's a strong feeling of annoyance, displeasure, or hostility. That's what anger is. It's a strong feeling of annoyance. When things make you angry, when things make you annoyed, that's anger. A strong feeling of displeasure, anger, begins to rise up when you're unhappy about something that causes you displeasure, something that causes you hostility or annoyance. Also, one thing I found out during my research was the website www.yourlifecounts.org states that there are 3 types of anger, and I really like this, and I thought, okay, yes, let me really explore what they mean by 3 types of anger, the way they've separated it and the way they've identify different types of anger. Excuse me. So there is passive aggression, open aggression, and assertive anger. So those are the 3 types. You have either the passive aggression, the open aggression, or assertive aggression. So when I go through this, I think it'll be good for us to really look and identify what category or what applies to us, what's applicable to you. Which of these emotions do you feel in terms of your anger do you reflect and see that you operate in sometimes when you feel your anger bubbling up? Okay, let's talk about passive aggression. So passive aggression is when you are angry but you don't admit it, because you avoid confrontation. There's some people, they don't like confrontation. You see that they're angry, the anger is within them, but they are passive about it. They're angry, but they don't want to admit that they're angry, but they have that anger inside of them. So they either suppress the anger or they avoid that feeling, that emotion of expressing anger. He says, so, in my notes, what I was writing was that when you avoid your anger, you pretend everything is fine. So that people ask you, "Oh, how you feeling?" "Oh, I'm fine." Or maybe your friendship, maybe in your friendship group or something made you upset within the friendship group, and you're angry about that thing. Instead of you to go and clarify with your friends or say to your friends, "Well, the way you spoke to me, you really hurt me. I don't like the way you spoke to me, or I feel offended." You just keep everything within you. You don't say anything, and they ask you, and you say, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine." So you're moving along and going along as if everything is okay, but you have that anger inside of you, and if not addressed, it begins to turn to resentment. You say everything is fine, but you exhibit your anger in a passive way, where you can sulk, you can start to make negative comments, you can procrastinate, or you can become silent within the group or silent within yourself, and they might say, "Oh, what's going on?" and you're silent. So there are different ways where people can be passive aggressive. They show aggression, but in a passive way. They don't want to admit it, but they show it in other ways that don't look confrontational. I normally call it, it's like a silent killer. It comes in there silently. It worms its way in there. But that passive aggression can be dangerous. It can be dangerous. People think, "Oh, you know what? I don't show my anger," but you are angry. And when you show anger, it doesn't mean that you have to be violent when you show anger. You can show anger in different forms that are healthy, because anger is a healthy emotion when shown in a appropriate manner. Okay. But if it's shown in an inappropriate manner to cause harm to yourself or to somebody else, then that's not good. That's not good. Okay. Open aggression. Let's talk about open aggression. What do you think open aggression is? Let's look at what I've written in my notes. Open aggression is when we lash out either in anger or in rage. We become physically or verbally aggressive or violent, and can often hurt ourselves or the other person. That's what open aggression is. Violence, we lash out without even thinking, and it could be either physically or it could be verbally, that we are lashing out onto others or even onto ourselves. You see, people even hurt themselves, self-harm. When you talk about self-harm, where people cause aggression to themselves, they are harming themselves. Or when you harm, you talk about domestic violence, where you harm somebody else, you're lashing out openly, you're showing that aggression. I don't like that type of aggression. No, that's not a good aggression at all. This can be exhibited by shouting, bullying, fighting, making accusation on other people, bickering, sarcasm, or criticism. Some people can be very sarcastic, and that's open aggression, and they can be very violent with their words or physical. It says violently or physically, when you bring people down, when you just mean, as a result of your anger. It could be either anger by what the person has done, or somebody else has done it to you, or maybe something in your past, and then the other person who's in front of you or who you're angry at, is the victim of it. And we suffer different angers in different manners. We can be angry at society for how, for the laws they make, for how they've treated us, or for things that are happening. You can be angry in different manners. But all I will say is understand what anger that you are showing and how you can tame it, manage it, so that it doesn't cause it doesn't cause any kind of detriment to yourself or to somebody else. Okay. The third one is assertive anger. I like assertive anger because I think that is a healthy way of showing your anger, to be assertive. Assertive anger is when we are able to control the emotion of our anger confidently, by talking and listening, being open so that we can deal with the situation. I really like this definition. It says when we are able to control the emotion of anger confidently, talking and listening, being able to deal with the situation. So yes, dealing with situations calmly, being able to talk about it, not brushing it aside and putting it under the carpet. When we brush things and put it under the carpet, that's not us dealing with it, because we're still having that emotion of anger. But it's being able to listen to the other person listen to you, and handle it confidently, and deal with the situation. That's assertive anger. This means that we are thinking before we speak, and we are confident in how we say it. Sometimes when we speak, we're not confident. When we're angry, oh my goodness, we just say any kind of thing, verbal diarrhea. We can say things to hurt people when we are, when we are upset. We can say things to hurt people, things to harm, that will cause harm to other people when we are angry. But assertive anger is saying that we think before we speak, that yes, the anger is there, but it's for us to understand, well, this feeling is rising in me now. My temper is getting higher. My adrenaline is coming. I can't control myself, But then in assertive anger is being able to temper yourself down, to say, okay, I'm getting angry now, so let me stop what I'm doing and take a deep breath and control myself. Being patient, not raising voices when we are communicating, but communicate how we are feeling emotionally, and also trying to understand the other person. And most of the time when we are angry, we don't want to understand what the other person is saying to us, because they don't even understand what we are saying to them. So we shout because we want to get our point across. We are angry. We want we tend to use any kind of physical stuff around us to elaborate. We use our hands, we use our physical movement or bodily movement to be able to express ourselves. But in terms of assertive anger, it says that we have to communicate how we are feeling in a patient manner, and not raising our voice, and also trying to understand the other person. It just shows how mature we are if we do that, and we care for our relationships and the others. And also we should be open to forgive, and that will help us calm down. I know sometimes somebody hurt you so bad. I'm not saying you should forgive them right away, but you can think about it, and when you're calmed down, think of how you can open up to say, okay, there is room for forgiveness. It's good to forgive. There is always room for us to forgive when somebody offends us or hurts us. But it's for us to create that space to allow forgiveness, because sometimes the people, they might say they're sorry, but sometimes they might not even say they're sorry, or sometimes you wouldn't even have the opportunity to hear any apology, especially if it's an organization or society, as we put it. And we are part of society, aren't we? We make the society itself. Okay. All right. Another website that I looked at, which is www.alldaymedicalcare.com. They've organized anger into 4 main categories. I looked at that website, and when I was doing my research, they've all day medical center, or medical care, they organized anger into 4 main categories, which I'm going to look at very briefly. Frustration, irritation, abuse, and unfairness. Frustration, we get frustrated, it's an emotion. Irritation, we get irritated. Abuse and unfairness. When you put those 4 emotions together, they are part of you feeling angry. They are like the ignition to your anger, And in order for us to understand anger, you might want to ask the following questions. One of the things to ask is, ask yourself, have you studied your own anger? What is it that you think you will find useful when you study your anger or know about yourself? You might even come up with questions that you want to ask yourself. And I think it's good that we sit down and take time to study our own emotions. It doesn't just have to be anger. Any emotion that you're expressing or you have difficulty expressing, or the emotions that other people are telling you that they see you express, it's good for you to sit down and say, okay, I'm expressing this anger. How do I receive this anger for me, and how do people receive this anger, or how do I portray the anger? For me to be able to do this, I've been able to sit down with myself and ask myself, okay, Henzi, how do you receive anger and how do you portray anger? And it was interesting what I found out. And I think as a result of what I found out, I was able to make my notes and say, okay, this is what I came up with. Let me see what clients come up with. And I do share it in the session, and it's interesting to know. I think these are the following questions that I ask myself, and I think you might want to ask yourself too. You can also add to it. One of the things I ask myself is, what does my anger look like? So when you come to the therapy room, people say, oh, I want to control my anger. I'm always angry, this and that. But what does your anger look like? Everybody's anger looks differently. Some people say to me, oh, Henzi, my anger looks like a Incredible Hulk. Some people say, oh, well, my anger, it looks like this and looks like that. But it's okay to understand what your anger looks like. And I think that's very important, that you need to understand what your anger looks like. What would it feel like for me to address my anger? So it's something I really ask myself, Henzi, what would it feel like for me to really address my anger? You know, if I'm shouting at the kids, if I'm angry that, I've been mistreated at work, and, what would it feel like for me to really sit down with myself, understand what my anger looks like, and address my anger? So that's question 2. Number 3, how would you describe your anger? I like to using this question in my sessions, because this is something I normally ask myself. If your anger was a person, how would you describe it? How would that anger look like? If you was a person, how would you describe your anger as a person? Let's say your anger was a character. How would you describe your anger? Number 4, how would you feel if your anger came to visit you every day as a friend or an acquaintance? So if your anger was a friend of yours and came every day to visit you, how would you feel if anger was coming every day to visit you? Sure, I would be tired, because getting angry every day is hard work. It's work. It's work to me. It might not be work to some people, but it will be work to me, because, I will have to put myself in that mode, or looking for things to. Some people just look for things to make them angry, or some people just naturally feeling angry because maybe that's how they were, they were brought up in that environment of violence or environment of anger, So it's really sad, but I think these questions will really help you, if you go over them and begin to think about how they reflect you as a person. Okay, what are your different types of anger that you can identify and feel? So what are the different types of anger that you can identify and feel? It might not even be what I've written down in my notes that I've been sharing. It might be something that's not here. But we've talked about passive aggression, we've talked about open aggression, and we've talked about assertive anger. So if it's for you to really go back, you can rewind the video, go back and look and listen, watch the video, rewind it, go back and listen to what I've said previously to see where you fit in, or even if you don't fit into what I've said, do your own research on how you feel your anger affects you. Number 6, who is your anger directed at? When you're feeling angry, who do you direct it at and why? What is your reason for being angry? So those are the questions you could ask. You can add to them, like I said, okay, if you want. All right, let's go. I'm looking at the time now. I still got a few more minutes before I go into my next session. All right, so managing your anger. For me, when I was studying about my own anger, one of the things that I looked at is, okay, if I'm angry at injustice, if I'm angry at racism, if I'm angry at maybe things around, maybe my kids, if I say to them, oh, put your plates in the dishwasher, and they put their plate in the sink, and I call my kids and say, who did that? And this one say, oh no, I'm coming out, I forgot, and I become upset. I'm like, well, you should have done it when I asked you to. Why didn't you do it? I've been working all day and you've been on your phone and blah blah blah. And I get upset and I get angry about it. But I felt that this is draining my energy, because I'll be in sessions all day, and I come out from my therapy room and go into the house. What I want to see is a clean sink. You got a dishwasher, put the plates in there. You don't need to leave the plates in the sink, or don't wipe the table. Teenagers, I'm like, okay, yeah, you're a teenager now. Mom's not gonna be cleaning up after you all the time and stuff like that. But then one of the things that I had to do was really sit down to identify the causes of my anger. And guess what I found? I found that three things make me angry. 3 things. 1, the triggers, people and situations. Those 3 things. Now, these are mine. I want you can use this format and do yours also. So identify the causes of your anger. For me, the causes of my anger are people, triggers, and situations. And I'll break that down for you. So those are the things. So another question I ask myself, is my anger, is it a repressed anger or is it an expressed anger? Am I repressing my anger? So it's like, am I shoving it down? Am I suppressing it? Am I repressing it? So I'm angry and I'm not showing it, I'm just closing myself up to anger. It's just like being passive. I'm angry, but I'm not expressing it. And expressive anger is being open. Okay, so this is what I've put down here. Let me go back to the triggers, to the causes. So when I say they identify the causes or triggers, is something that will trigger me to cause me to feel angry. Yeah, or which is people. People make me angry. We are living in a world where we live with people. People make, it's either you go to the bank and someone, or you go to the supermarket and someone jumps the queue. There's so many things that, if you can even be watching TV, even though, I was watching TV last night, and this guy was a villain. And hey, it was like a thriller, and I think I was getting really wound up. The guy was so nasty, he was so evil, and the things he was doing was so nasty. And I was saying, oh my goodness, I said, this man, he's very evil. I don't like him when he plays this when he plays the villain. Do you know what my daughter said? She said, oh mom, it's just a film, it's just a TV. He's just acting. I said, yes, I know he's acting, but sometimes you comment, and I do the same thing to my mom too. When my mom, she's watching some program, she gets really wound up, and I say to her, mom, don't forget, they're just acting. So things like that can cause us, to feel a bit of anger and stuff like that. So in terms of repressed anger, it could either be hidden or it could be passive. Expressed anger could be open, where there is an open outburst of anger, or it could be an assertive anger. So number 3, what types of anger do you observe in yourself? I want you to ask yourself, what types of anger do you or have you observed within yourself? It could either be a healthy anger or an unhealthy anger. Okay, so for healthy anger, in terms of healthy anger, you're assertive, in terms of your anger, and you are controlled, like what we read before, or what we talked about before, about assertive anger is a healthy type of anger because it's controlled. You are in control. You're not allowing the emotion of anger to control you. You are in control of that anger. But unhealthy anger is an anger that is passive and open. Where you get the open anger is you have that outburst of anger. Passive anger is a hidden anger. Also, there's rage in terms of open anger. And that outburst can also lead to rage. Okay, it can be uncontrolled sometimes. That one is not good. Okay. Number 4, reactions. Don't forget, I'm talking about how to manage your anger now. Reactions. Let me go back to the start. So, how to manage your anger. Number 1, identify the causes of your anger. 2, ask yourself, is your anger expressed or repressed anger? What types of anger do you observe yourself exhibiting? Number 3, what are your reactions? And what I've identified here from doing this on myself is that in terms of my reactions, I engage my thoughts, my emotions, and my physical self in terms of my reactions to anger. So first of all, when I talk about thoughts, you think about irrational. You think about you begin to think about, oh, what they did to you is quite irrational. You think about the unfairness of it. In terms of your emotions, if there's frustration, there's revenge, you're upset, you wanna get the person back for whatever they done to you. And the physical reactions that you're beginning to feel, some people, they begin to sweat, you get sweaty palms, you clench your fist, your heart begins to palpitate, your heart pounds, your face all gets flushed, and you tighten your lips, your facial expression changes, all those things in terms of reaction. So when you start to notice that you're getting to that stage of anger, take time to recognize how you're feeling. You are in control. I want you to know that you are in control. We are all in control. Sometimes we don't want to be in control when we are in that space of anger. But I want to say to you today that you can do it. It's just practice. We can be in control. We can show healthy anger and get rid of the passive and aggressive anger. Okay? All right. Emotional regulation. So how to be able to control this now is for us to control our emotions, for us to have emotional regulation. And this is what I've written down here. Create space to be reflective. Okay, let's say you got angry at something, whatever you're angry at. After you've gotten angry at that thing or angry at yourself, create space for you to reflect and ask yourself, well, why was I angry? What made me angry? What could I have done better? How do I need to manage my anger? What could I have done differently from what I did before? Okay. Take accountability. A lot of us don't like to take accountability, but whatever it is, whoever's fault it is, you are responsible for your own actions. Myself included, we are all responsible for our own actions. So it's always important that we take accountability for our own actions. Use grounding technique, to calm yourself down. In terms of grounding technique, sometimes when our emotions get so heightened up, it's like we're not in that place anymore. We've gone. Your mind has gone somewhere else because you're so angry. Bring yourself down. Look at your environment. What's in your environment? We use the grounding technique. You can use things within your environment, to know that yes, you are present, to bring you present. So look at different look out for different types of grounding technique. We can use the 5 senses, where you look at things that you can see, look at things that you can see that have colors, to say, okay, yeah, I'm here now because I'm looking at my computer, I'm looking at the flower behind me, I'm looking at the chairs behind me, I'm looking at different things. Look at your room, bring yourself down. You can feel things you can touch, to know, just to help you bring your emotions back. Things that you can smell, it's just to help you bring your emotions back down. Okay, sounds you can even hear, all grounding technique. Okay, practice redirecting your thoughts. So when you're angry about stuff, when you've calmed down, redirect your thoughts. Sometimes when we think negatively, or think about the hurt and the pain that somebody else has caused us, it does make us angry. It does bring anger within us, but it's about redirect. And sometimes it happens to me, maybe I'm thinking about an ex, or I'm thinking about something that somebody did to me. It's not that I have any grievance against them. Maybe I've even forgotten about that. And but I'm thinking about the situation and I'm thinking about what happened, and before you know, it's like I'm getting offended, and I just quickly remove my mind from that, and I just bring my mind back to present. So think about how you can do that to redirect your thoughts. Think about how your reaction may be to others around you also. There's some people, when they angry, they don't care, they just break things and scatter things. They don't care about any other person. Why? Think about other people in your presence. Think about how other people, your actions may be harmful to other people. Okay, I hope you found this topic very useful. I mean, it's not really in depth. It's not, because if I do an in-depth one, we're gonna be here for the next day trying to fit this into upload. But it's just something really short, and I hope you found it useful. Something that you can also rewind back and you can use for yourself. If you found it useful, feel free to come back anytime you want, and listen to the video. You can share it with your friends and people who you feel need it. You can also like the subscribe and like the video. Okay, I hope you found it useful, and I'll see you in the therapy room. You have a good day. Bye.